Every manager dreads it, but in a statistician-led world, fans will always pose the impossible question to the team manager: just who would get into his best ever side for the club? Now we cornered Harry Redknapp to express a preference. Would there be any surprises? Probably not, as we'd already narrowed down the selections. But even then, there would be players you wouldn't want to have to choose between.
Well, it's difficult. Look at the four keepers, all good keepers. Ernie's a senior one out of the group. Ernie played here for years. Ernie Gregory was a great goalkeeper and ended up as just on the coaching staff. Jim Standen played in the cup winning team, European Cup Winners' Cup winning team. Jim came from Arsenal and Luton Town, and Phil Parks, magnificent goalkeeper, record signing. And Ludek McCloskey was also a top goalkeeper, so an international goalkeeper, and was a fantastic buy at £250,000 or whatever they paid for him. Very difficult, I suppose. Ernie will never speak to me again if I don't choose him. Maybe Phil Parks might have just about edged it. Right backs, Georgie Wright, you know, was as you say, played in the promotion team long time ago. I wasn't here with George and I never saw him play too much, so I wouldn't be able to give you too much of an opinion on him. You know, I know John Bond very, very well. Bondy was a great right back, great passer of the ball, had a kick like a mule, that's why he was nicknamed Muffin. Joe Kirkup, Joe was consistent, you know, and a steady right back, and Ray Stewart, great penalty taker, had a terrific spell at West Ham. I'd have to just about go with Bondy. I think John Bond would be my pick. Difficult. Noel Campbell left here, went to Man United. Noel was a great left back. Bond and Campbell were a pair. You know, they were both big and both had a bit of arrogance. Both great passers of the ball. Jackie Burkett did a great job when he was here and played in the cup final team. Frank, outstanding career at West Ham, 18 years or whatever he played here for. And, you know, went on and played for England on one or two occasions and was top class. Dixie was one of the most talented players I think I've ever seen. You know, great left foot. Could do anything with that left foot. Really, he really was a special talent. Wouldn't be easy to choose. It's difficult between Noel Campbell, Frank, and Dixie. To be fair, but I suppose I'd like to pick Frank really, but maybe Dixie might just have edged him out. Dixie might have just had a bit more ability, but Frank was probably a better professional and a more consistent player over the years. And, you know, that he played a lot more games than Dixie would have done for the club. But Dixie was a fantastic talent, so maybe I think I'd just about go with Dixie. Yeah, I know Dickie, I know Malcolm Allison, Kenny Brown, Alvin, Tony Gow, Slaven Bilic, Rio. To be fair, I'd go with two of the younger ones if I was picking. It would be between Alvin and Rio for me. They'd be my two. I think Rio is a fantastic talent. But Alvin...
So we've got to go with one, yeah?
Alvin, sorry if I was picking one. Alvin, you know, 20 years playing, so I think Alvin, I'd have to swing it Alvin's way really over Rio. Okay, alongside Bobby for sure. Oh yeah. Yep, would have been. You know, good players. Peter Braywood had his best years at Chelsea. He was a great player at Chelsea, Peter. Andy Malcolm was he's not a right wing, he was a central midfield player, Andy Malcolm really, who loved the tackles, tough. Harry Hooper was a flying machine. Paul Allen was a good work up and down all day for you, and run all day. Martin Peters would have been without a doubt the pick, top class player, you know, played in the World Cup, scoring goals, yeah, playing anywhere, might would be your choice. Phil went out to America. Phil left the club just about the time I was joining as a kid. Johnny Smith, who unfortunately died a few years back, John was a good player, left it at a young age and went to Tottenham. Ronnie Boyce, you know, terrific Boyce here, and had a good career, and called him Ticker because he was always, you know, kept the team ticking over. But Trevor was a class of his own, so I'd have to pick Trevor Brooking. Again, you know, young Franks, I think he's a terrific talent who doesn't really, I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves perhaps at the club by people. I think he's a good player, and I think he'll go on and become a top player in years over the next 10 years. So he's certainly, for me, he's top class. Old Berkowitz was a magnificent player. First we paid £1.5 million for him, sold him for £6 to Celtic. Make goals, great passer of the ball, great vision. But you'd have to pick Billy Bonds any day of the week. You know, if he was picking your best team, Bonzo would be in the team in 3 or 4 positions. So, you know, one of the greatest, most committed players you could ever see, fit as a fiddle. Ranald Day, you know, if you picked him, as I say, he could play in 3 or 4 of them positions in your team, so you'd have to be in your team. Yeah, Muzzy was, you know, in the Bond and Cantwell and Ernie Gregory era, you know, and Muzzy was a good left winger, and Malcolm's a nice guy as well. He's been done the round since he left West Ham. He was assistant manager at Man United for a spell, and physio at Shrewsbury and Plymouth, and Muzzy was a good lad and a good player. Johnny Sissons never really reached his potential. Came in at 16, looked like being a world beater, but probably left the club by the time he was 23, I would imagine, at a very early age anyway. Didn't stay that long. Alan Devonshire, come out of non-league, Southall, fantastic talent. Picked the ball up and ran at people. And a really exciting sight when he was in full flow, and I'd have to pick Alan Devonshire. Dick and Keeble were a pair, weren't they? We lost Johnny Dick not so long ago, unfortunately. Jacko died, and he was a great character. And him and Vic Keeble were a magnificent partnership, with goal scoring machines. Budgie Byrne, I mean, you know, one of the most talented players I've ever seen, and Budgie passed away a year or so ago, moved out to South Africa. A real character, lovely character. Pop Robson, goal scorer, came from Newcastle, where he'd scored loads of goals and scored plenty of goals at West Ham, and terrific little talent. Paul Goddard, again a big signing when he came here from QPR. And, you know, did well and scored goals, and big crossy. I think he came from Rochdale. Was that his move before he? Might have been. He certainly played at Rochdale. Huh? West Brom, Rochdale to West Brom. You know, it was amazing. I think that David Cross, you know, he had a spell at Rochdale when you could pull players out of them divisions, and they'd come into the Premier League or the First Division and score goals, and he certainly did that. Tony Cotty, what a record Tony Cotty had here. Cotty and McAvenny again, they were another pair. You know, Tony's record over the years was fantastic. Paolo Di Canio, who's what he is, a fantastic talent, an absolute genius with the ball. I mean, Hursty would be your first choice for sure. You know, Jeff would have to play. It's finding a partner for Hursty out. The rest of them is not easy. You could pick any one of them and you'd have a good partnership for sure, you know. So that wouldn't be easy. Maybe Tony Cotty's goals would make you, you know, Hursty and Cotty. But I think maybe you'd take a chance with Parlo's extra bit of flair. I think since he's been at the club, he really has been fantastic. But it would be hard. You could pick any of them. They'd all grace any team. It would be, yeah. Yeah, with Devonshire, Bonds, Brookin and Peters doesn't sound too shabby, and you know, John Bond and Alvin Martin, Bobby Moore, Dixie or Lampard. You know, you could take your pick really at them two, to be honest with you. It would be hard. That's a difficult choice. And 4 great goalkeepers with Phil Parkes just about edging it. That looks a fair team to me. And Ron Greenwood could be the manager.
There we are.
That'd do.